You are listening to Curious Cat, a podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. And I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I examine what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat, Season 2. I hope you and yours are well. As of this recording, Curious Cat is being streamed in 18 countries, and I am grateful for every second you've chosen to spend with me. Thank you so much. Season 2 kicks off with a mystery that's been speculated about across the globe. It's been the source material for some books and other podcasts and some TV episodes. It's been out there for a handful of years, and it's allegedly been solved by a doctor on TikTok. There's a dedicated Wikipedia page for this mystery, compelling Vox article whose phenomenon is helping to solve a strange case in Australia. And it begins a stone's throw away from my corner of the world in Washington State. I've been intrigued by the Salish Sea mystery since the first foot washed up on the shores of a Canadian island 15 years ago. I can't believe it's been 15 years. Recently, though, when a doctor professed to solve the mystery once and for all on TikTok, I was left scratching my head. Even today, when I Googled the Salish feet mystery before recording, my stomach hurt thinking of the people, possibly as many as 21, who passed away and part of them washed up on the coastlines of Canada, predominantly British Columbia, Canada, and Washington State. These are people that lived and died, and in all other tellings of it, their humanity's been missed, I feel like. That's why I had to tell their story. There's a cluster of picture-perfect islands just a hair west of Washington State, and they're the shape of breadfruit. One glance at the map and your brain fits the chain of islands into the greater landmass like a missing puzzle piece. Known as the Gulf Islands, they broke apart and drifted into what is now the Salish Sea, the Strait of Georgia, and the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And the international border between the United States and Canada lies in that water. The islands are lush with old-growth evergreens, wildflowers, high cliffs, berry brambles, sandy bluffs, inlets, and wide open meadows. Those islands hold secrets, too. Abandoned homesteads, forgotten campgrounds, even the remnants of one long-forgotten cult whose leader died with the knowledge of where he'd buried gold coins in mason jars. That cult leader is Brother XII, and the place that may still hide the treasure is Valdes Island. As a crow flies, the Gulf Islands are close to busy urban centers, Vancouver, British Columbia, and Seattle. And it's just around the corner from regal Victoria, where visitors stroll the famous Bouchard Gardens, and they also sip tea pinkies out. Jedediah Island, the largest, most diverse of the chain of over 30 islands, is a marine park in entirety. It's a popular camping and kayaking destination, jokingly referred to as Club Jed because of its luxurious space by the residents of nearby Lasqueti Island. This special place has never seen a logger's saw blade. Once owned by a single private family, when it was at risk of being resold, citizens of the U.S. and Canada interceded, buying the entire property, and they've made it available to the public for camping, kayaking, and other outdoor activities. Visitors hike through old-growth forests, and at Home Bay, they find an abandoned farmhouse, a herd of feral sheep, and possibly still an aging strawberry-colored horse, all remnants of that former owner. On the 20th of August in 2007, a girl was visiting Valdes Island with her family. As she explored the coastline, she came upon a size 12 Adidas shoe. The white and blue mesh hid the remains of a man's right foot. She had to have been shocked to see. Most likely, that shoe was manufactured in India 4 years prior. The foot inside was badly decayed, but forensic experts were able to obtain a viable DNA sample from it. 6 days later, on Gabriola Island, also part of the Gulf Island chain, a couple walking along a very popular, super busy beach trail discovered a man's right foot in a size 12 white Reebok. The shoe was waterlogged. Experts believed it was taken ashore by an animal and thought it might have come from the south originally. They were able to collect viable DNA from the foot. This is the second size 12 men's shoe found. The average height for a man wearing this size shoe is 6 foot 2 inches, and the average male height, I looked it up, is 5 foot 10 inches, which I found kind of curious. February 8th, 2008, Valdes Island, British Columbia, Canada. Found by 2 forest workers. The shoe is a Nike men's size 11. This is the third foot found on the Gulf Islands, so it's no surprise that the story is picked up by the Toronto Star newspaper. At this point, the speculation begins about there being possibly a serial killer or a drug dealer doing the killing. Other theories include boating accidents, an old plane crash hoax, or even the 2004 tsunami. Traceable DNA is collected from the remains. Investigators tested the DNA of the first 2 feet, but found no matches to anyone in the system. The Toronto Star article says, the fact there are 3 very similar sets of remains uncovered from one particular waterway is not something we've seen before, said Chief Coroner Jeff Dolan in the Star article. We're not ruling anything out at this point. Constable Annie Linteau of the RCMP said investigators are also going through missing persons reports to see if there is any match. She said police don't know yet what connection there is between the feet or whether they are investigating 3 homicides. I'd like to make a note because the coroners in all 3 of the prior cases, they looked at the way that the foot, the ankle bone or the foot bone had come off, and they saw no signs of any tools being used, like imagine like a saw or some sort of blade or something that would cut off the foot. That's why they were kind of hesitating to say it was a homicide at this point. May 22nd, 2008, a woman's New Balance size 7 shoe is found on Kirkland Island by a man walking the shoreline. This is the first female. The remains inside the blue and white sneaker were thought to have washed down the Fraser River. They collected DNA, which will become key to matching this shoe with her identity later on. June 16th, 2008. A man's left foot was found by 2 hikers floating in a river delta on West Helm Island, British Columbia. It's the first left foot found, and the DNA matches foot number 3, which leads to the identification of the man, whose family members say he was suffering from depression. Later that same month, a hoax foot is found. Tricksters found an animal paw in a sock and with some sea kelp stuffed into a running shoe, which I think is a really jerk move. August 1st, 2008. So we're a little shy of a year after that first foot was discovered. This is foot number 6, and it's found by a camper on a beach near Pisht, Washington. It is the first to wash ashore in Washington state and was only 16 kilometers from the international border in the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Testing confirmed the foot was human. The large black-top size 11 athletic shoe contained a right foot. Investigators in Washington and Canada agreed the foot could have been carried south from the Canadian waters. November 11, 2008. A woman's left foot in a shoe is found floating in the Fraser River by a Richmond, BC couple. DNA profiling analysis indicated that it was a genetic match to the fourth foot discovered. It was quickly identified as belonging to a woman who tragically jumped from the Pattullo Bridge in New Westminster 4 years prior. October 27, 2009, foot number 8 is found. It's a men's size 8.5 Nike running shoe, and it's found on a beach in Richmond, BC. I want to take a moment here to remember these are human beings. We cannot be desensitized to the tragedies behind each of these grisly discoveries. These feet, each one of them was a tiny baby at one time, a loved child whose toes were wriggled into socks by a father, baby lotion massaged and tiny toenails trimmed by a concerned mother. These are real people that lived and died. And in all other tellings, I feel like this has been missing. To remain souls in meat suits, we can never grow numb to the loss of life, to the pain these people endured. But why stare at directly? Mark it properly? Well, I think it honors their lives, of course. I mean, that's the most critical point. But also, it helps us to recognize that need, that urgency in the eyes of our loved ones, our community members, so that if we see the same look of sadness, depression, we can intercede. August 27th, 2010. After nearly a year's gap, another foot is found, foot number 9. Either a woman or a child's right foot is found on Valdes Island in Washington state. The foot was determined to have been in the water about 2 months. DNA is extracted, but no match is found in the database. December 5th, 2010. Found on tidal flats in Tacoma, Washington, a major city south of Seattle, if you're not aware or you're not from this area. The right foot was still inside a boy's size 6 Ozark Trail hiking boot. August 30th, 2011. A foot is found inside a men's white and blue size 9 runner floating next to the Plaza of Nations Marina in False Creek, British Columbia. November 4th, 2011. Foot number 12 is discovered by a group of campers in a pool of fresh water at Sasamat Lake near Port Moody. Identified in January 2012, coroners say the foot belonged to a local fisherman who went missing in 1987, and no foul play is suspected. That's a huge gap. Let's see, that's 24 years between the man going missing and the foot being found, and still they were able to find preservable DNA. That's pretty remarkable. December 10th, 2011. A human foot and leg are discovered in a plastic bag beneath the Ship Canal Bridge on Lake Union in Seattle. January 26, 2012. The remains of what appear to be human bones are found inside a boot in the sand along the waterline at a dog park near the Maritime Museum in Vancouver, BC. May 6, 2014. A men's size 10.5 white New Balance shoe and left foot are discovered along the shoreline of Centennial Park near Pier 86 in Seattle. Known as foot number 15, no other feet would be discovered for nearly 2 years after this find. Over the course of the next 5 years, 6 more feet would appear on Canadian and Washington coastlines. 2 belonged to the same person, his feet found 5 days apart. The final foot found, as of this recording, was later tied via DNA to Antonio Neal, a man missing since December 2016. So we're midway through 2022. The majority of the people have been identified, but there are still some whose names and circumstances of their death remain a mystery. One doctor on TikTok professed in a video to have solved the mystery of the feet washing up on Canada and on Washington shores. He said the advent of padded running shoes explains everything. The padding protects the remains from predators, and it's buoyant, so the shoes become a life raft of sorts that can travel many miles, stay afloat long enough to be washed up on shore, a long ways away from where originally maybe the remains entered the water. His theory makes a lot of sense, but still it doesn't explain everything. What happened to the rest of their body? Why are some with trace DNA never linked back to a missing person? And if his theory that this is the new normal to expect with tennis shoes, lots of feet washing up, then why the gap in years between discoveries? I hope these questions are answered for the families and friends of those that passed. It seems that untreated mental health concerns are the cause of most of the deaths. But that should warrant as much action and concern as a serial killer or a tsunami, don't you think? Each of these people need to be remembered and mourned. Let their lost lives be a reminder to all of us to see the people in our lives. Really notice them and say something, especially when you have those blank times where you're like, I haven't heard from this person in a while. Reach out. Try to intercede if you notice they are depressed or hurting in some way. Or if this speaks to you, there are many resources out there, so many online too. If you or someone you love need an empathetic voice, maybe even a lifeline, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. They field calls 24/7 for anyone in crisis. I love you. I love your people, and I want all of you in life. If you listen to season 1, you know I am a glass half full girl. So I have to tell you about the way the Salish Sea feet are helping investigators across the globe find answers to the disappearance and death of an Australian woman. Melissa Caddick's Asics running shoe was found 400 kilometers from her last known location. Investigators studied the way the Salish feet were able to travel long distances and remain intact for long stretches of time, and it's changed their understanding of this Australian mystery. They are recalculating where the crime might have actually occurred and creating a more accurate timeline. Both are key to finding answers. So I like to think it's a silver lining in this sad phenomenon. Join me next Friday for another mystery from the shores of Seattle. Have you heard of the app Randonautica? It's like geocaching, a discovery app that gets people out exploring, but with a strange, mystical twist. Users are asked to manifest what kind of adventure they'd like, and then open Randonautica, which generates a GPS coordinate that will reveal a final destination that's in alignment with their manifestation. Odd, strange, mystical. 2 teens filming a TikTok while using the app found a suitcase in West Seattle that contained human remains. I'm downloading the app to give it a try, and I'll share more stories of Randonautica oddness here next week. Oh, and the suitcase found in West Seattle, it's not the only strange thing that's washed ashore. Cheapism.com has a whole list of the weirdest things that have washed up on shore. Of course, the Salish feet are number one. There's a strange Lake Michigan sea monster that they mention. There's a man in a hamster wheel. Beachgoers in St. Augustine, Florida were astounded to see what looked like a huge hamster wheel, but really it had a 49-year-old, very much alive man inside, and he washed ashore on July 25th, 2021. He was an ultra-marathoner who had staged numerous running and endurance events for charity. Well, he was attempting to travel from Florida to New York City while walking in a self-designed hydropod. But unfortunately, just 25 miles in, everything kind of gave out on him. He aborted his attempt after discovering that critical safety gear was missing. Other odd things that have washed up: a whale shark, which was in Botany Bay in Australia's Bear Island in 1965. It was a 30-foot whale shark. Despite efforts to save it by the very same folks who hounded it ashore, the creature died. Giant squids are, some of them more than 1,500 giant squid, can be around 3 to 4 feet in length, are still a very odd find washing ashore. There's the Massachusetts sea monster. It's a 20-ton sea creature that washed ashore in Man Hill Beach in the 1970s. They called it a camel without legs. The animal was later identified as a basking shark that likely died at sea and was partially eaten before drifting ashore. There's the Lego pieces. In 1997, a storm caused a Tokyo Express container ship to inadvertently dump 62 containers into the ocean. One of these carried more than 4.8 million Lego pieces. Nearly 25 years later, pieces are still washing ashore in southwest England along Cornish coastlines, and members of the Cornish Plastic Pollution Coalition, an organization that works to reduce marine plastic pollution, they're still cleaning them up. A Harley-Davidson motorcycle washed up on shore. A giant eyeball in 2012, about the size of a grapefruit, washed up on Florida's Pompano Beach. It was later revealed that the eyeball belonged to Poseidon. Okay, we're kidding. It came from a swordfish. About 5 years before those plastic Legos filled the sea around Cornish beaches, a shipping crate filled with 28,000 rubber duckies fell overboard on a ship traveling from Hong Kong to the U.S. Since that accident, the ducks have washed ashore in Hawaii, Alaska, the Pacific Northwest, South America, Australia, Scotland, Newfoundland, and have even been found encased in Arctic ice. Gold, how about that? In the last quarter of 2020, gold jewelry, ornaments, and medallions and nuggets began to wash ashore in the fishing village of Guaca, Venezuela. While its origins will likely never be known, it was a much-needed bounty for locals, many of whom sold their finds to buy food during a time when the country's economy had been in crisis since 2014. I had to end with a bit of good news there. Thank you for listening to Curious Cat. If you like the content, stories, and information, I'd be grateful if you could like and review us on your favorite streaming service. It'll help others find us as well. Huge gratitude for my art director and audio engineer. If you're in need of those services, please find their links in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.